So I normally do record a video on Saturday and post it, and usually I'm inside, wearing like a t-shirt or something, but I went running, and then I went to Walmart, and there's a large wasp outside of my car between me and the garage. And so while I'm waiting for him to migrate elsewhere so I can go inside, I figured I'd just go ahead and do my video from here. My topic today is going to be the Second Amendment and why pretty much the two main liberal arguments about the Second Amendment are just asinine, for lack of a better word. The first argument that liberals like to throw out is that the Founding Fathers did not anticipate, when they wrote the Second Amendment, that we would create something like an AR-15, and therefore that's not what they had in mind. That's not why they wrote it. It should not apply to weapons like that. First of all, an AR-15 is not the only semi-automatic weapon that there is. And any weapon, if altered, can be made into a semi-automatic or a fully automatic weapon. Fully automatic weapons have been illegal for a long time. Now, if you're a conservative, you might agree with that or you might not. It depends on if you're a Republican or a Libertarian. If you're a Democrat, you probably had no idea, because they don't tell you that. They just scream gun control and expect everybody to, start screaming and waving their arms frantically above their heads. You can turn just about any weapon into a fully automatic. It doesn't have to be something that's already a semi-automatic. Well, I mean, to some extent. But banning something that's semi-automatic is not going to solve the problem of people altering a weapon to make it fire faster. But the argument here is that since AR-15s didn't exist when the Constitution was written, that the Second Amendment shouldn't cover them because it's new technology. And people like to share these things and post these things and record these things on technology under the banner of free speech, on using technology that the Founding Fathers could never have anticipated that we would have had. Never. But if you try to tell those same liberals that argue that the Second Amendment shouldn't cover modern technology, if you try to say, well, shouldn't free speech then not cover it? Oh, no, that's different. That's free speech. They completely shut you down. They have no argument for why that should be or why that is or why that shouldn't be. They just, oh no, that's different. That's not the same thing. The Founding Fathers really had no idea that a lot of stuff that we have today would be created when they were writing the Constitution. And we've tried the idea of banning something before. Not that it was a constitutional right to drink alcohol, but we certainly did try to and succeeded in banning it in the form of a constitutional amendment for a little while. If you're not familiar with Prohibition, that's what that was. We decided as a nation that alcohol is bad and nobody should ever have any, because some people decided they didn't want anyone to have it. And they were able to gain enough support that it was ratified as a constitutional amendment. It didn't work. We're all familiar with the stories from that time period of people making moonshine or bootlegging, smuggling in alcohol. The places you could go where it was like kind of under the table type stuff, and the back room where you could go get it. And that should speak volumes to anyone thinking that we could either alter the existing the existing Second Amendment, which A, you can't do, you have to make a new one, or B, make a new one to ban the Second Amendment, to get rid of it. It didn't work with Prohibition, and it's not going to work with guns. And the second argument that I see a lot from Democrats or other liberals that don't consider themselves Democrats but still promote some idea of gun control is the idea that, well, it worked for England, worked for the United Kingdom, worked for Australia, it's working for Canada and all these other places that have banned private ownership of firearms, basically, without going through a very rigorous process. And you know what? 200 and some odd years ago, we decided to fight a war with England so that we don't have to do what they do anymore. We decided a long time ago that just because England does something doesn't mean we have to do it here. And for the last 200 and something years, we have not had to care what England does. We have not had to care what is successful for them and what is not successful for them. And to be quite honest, when it comes to England and Australia and Canada and all these other countries that like to, their citizens are like, oh yeah, y'all should do what we do. Look how great life is here. You know what? The second somebody invades your country, who are you going to come calling for help to? Who are you going to come crying to? Who are you going to beg to help you? Okay, England. Who did you want to come and help you when the Germans were bombing you in World War II? Did you go to the other countries with no guns? Or did you come to the United States and say, please help us, we're dying? Yeah, that's right. We don't have to do what other countries do just because they have had some success or no success or all the success with something that they've tried. Israel, for example, they had a school shooting back in the 70s, decided to arm teachers, and the only 2 other attempted school shootings were stopped before anyone was injured except for the shooter, by teachers who were armed. But they don't want you to know about that. The Democrats try to cover that kind of stuff up because, that goes against their agenda for gun control. There was a student the other day in Utah that brought a bomb to school, and I have yet to see any news media report in detail on that because it wasn't a gun. They try to cover up their agenda of taking guns away by saying it's to protect the children. Really? If that's what it's about, then let's talk about texting and driving. Let's talk about legalizing marijuana in certain states and allowing underage people to have access to that either through their parents or their friends. Let's talk about underage drinking. Let's talk about, all these other issues that are plaguing children today and come up with a solution to that. Let's talk about obesity and about, banning things that cause that. Nobody wants to talk about that because none of the liberals really care about protecting the children. All they care about is taking guns away. So before you jump on any bandwagon about, oh yeah, you know what, if we do this, it'll make it harder no. Not one single liberal politician, celebrity, or individual, whoever, just random Joe Schmo, has proposed any method of gun control that will take guns away from or limit access to guns by criminals. It's only law-abiding citizens. Only. There is nothing out there that has anything to do with people illegally obtaining guns. It's all, let's take guns away from the people who aren't using them for the bad things that are happening. And nobody really has any plan because you can't stop criminals from doing bad things, and both the conservatives and the liberals know that. The liberals just want to double talk you around so that you kind of lose track of what's going on so that you'll eventually just agree with them to shut them up, I guess. I don't know. But they know it too. They do. So before you jump on any bandwagon, just make sure that you are being a free thinker, you're fully informed, you're thinking for yourself, and you're not being a sheep. Have a great weekend, and I really hope the wasp is gone so I can go inside now because I'm tired of sitting in the car. Have a good weekend.